All right, Shalom. I'm going to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Harakakadash, the bonus to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Peace and salutations to hopefully let coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua. Lord willing, hoping this lesson be edifying. As you can see, the title Greeks, Grecians, and Gentiles. Now, a lot of people have a misunderstanding of the Holy Scriptures, and a part of those reasons why is that they don't understand the Greek, which you have to go back to, the Hebrew, which you have to go back to, and you got to know some form of the Latin language as well. Okay, so when you deal with the New Testament predominantly, you see these three words a lot, right? Or you see these three words enough, which a lot of these so-called Christians are thrown off by them. You see Gentiles, you see Greek, and you see Grecian. Now, Lord willing, in this lesson, we can go over these uh, these three words, maybe even more, but to get some true understanding of what they actually mean. So let's go into Salakia. Let's go into the definition of these words first. So you have, let's go to the book of John. Salakia, I got some of my eye. Or let's go to the book of let's start the book of Romans. Okay. The book of Romans, chapter 2, verse 1. Well, let's start at the top. It says, Paul, Romans chapter 1, verse 1, Paul, a servant of Yahushua Mashiach, called to be an apostle, separated to the gospel of the Most High, which he had promised aforetime by his prophets in the Holy Scriptures. Let's jump to verse 7. It says, to all that be in Rome. Read that again. To all that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from the Most High, our Father, and the Lord Yahushua Mashiach. So, to all to be in Rome, right? To all to be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints. Who are the saints of the Most High? Right? These are key scriptures you got to get, right? To get the understanding of the scriptures. First and foremost, the Holy Spirit got to be dealing with you. Let's go to the book. No, I don't remember. It's locked in. The book of Psalms, chapter 1. The book of Psalms, chapter 148, start of verse 13. It says, let them praise the name of Yahweh, for his name alone is excellent. His glory is above the earth and heaven. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, a people near unto him. Praise ye the Lord. So who are the saints? The Israelites, right? A people near unto the Most High, which we are his chosen people. Another precept. Let's get the book of Psalms, chapter 50, verse 5. It says, gather my saints together unto me, those that made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Who made a covenant with the Lord by sacrifice? The Israelites. Okay? So the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, are the saints of the Most High. So when we read the book of Romans, chapter 1, verse 7 again, it says, to all that be in Rome, beloved of the Most High, called to be saints, grace to you and peace from the Most High, our Father, and the Lord Yahushua Mashiach. So this was a letter written to the Israelites that were dwelling in Rome. Now, when we go to the book, right, it's a letter that was to the Israelites written in Rome. When you go to the book of Romans, chapter 2, verse 9, it says, let's start at verse 7. It says, to them who by patient continuance in well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life, But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation and wrath, tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, of the Jew first, and also of the Gentile, right? Now, when you go, what's that? Romans chapter 2, verse 9. So when you go into this word Gentile in Romans 2 and 9, you get what? You get the word Helen. Even when you go to verse 10, it says, but glory and honor and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the Gentile. You get the same word. You get what? Helen, right? Keep that in mind. Keep the word Helen in mind, and it's going to make sense to you in a little bit. Okay? So let's go to where it's talking about the actual heathen. Let's go to the book of Hosea. One second. The book of Hosea, chapter 8, verse 8, it says, Israel is a swallowed up. So like this, it says, Israel is swallowed up. Now shall they be among the Gentiles as a vessel wherein is no pleasure, right? So when you go into that word in Hebrews 8 and 8, Gentiles is what? Gawi. Hebrew word Gawi or Gwai. It says nation, people, heathen. So in Hosea, the 8th chapter, the 8th verse, this is talking about the actual heathen. Okay, so when you get neither, and I'll read it. I'm not even going. I won't do that. I told myself I was going to stop doing that. Another one, a key one Christians like to use. The book of Galatians, chapter. It's 2. No, it's right. The book of Galatians, chapter 3, verse 28. It says, "There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For ye are all one in the Mashiach." Or, yeah, for ye are all one in the Mashiach Yahushai. Okay? So when you go into that word, let's pull it up. I ain't got it in the notes. The book of Galatians, chapter 3. 28. And I'm in a blue letter Bible, right? You see what? You see the same word, Helen. Okay? Helen. Okay? Now, you go into this definition, it says, and we're going to read what it really meant. It says, a Greek speaking person, right? A Greek speaking person. So, where we at? So even when you go to the book of John, chapter 12, the book of John, chapter 12, verse 20, it says, when you go into the Greeks, let's read it real quick. And it's all going to make sense. Right? So all going to make sense. No, I'm moving kind of fast. The book of John, chapter 12, verse 20, it says, and there were certain Greeks among them. Let's start at verse 19. It says, the Pharisees therefore said among themselves, perceive ye how ye prevail nothing? Behold, the world is gone after him. And this is speaking of Yahushai. Hold on. Yeah, Yahushai. Okay. And it says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. Right? Let's read that again. And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship at the feast. Now, these Greeks, let's go into that word. We go into these Greeks. What does it go back to? Helen, right? Helen. Is it talking about the actual heathen? No, it's not. It's talking about what? The Greeks, the Hellenized Israelites. So when you go into the word Helen, it says a Greek, either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. Now, the Edomites they said, not Jews that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. But that is exactly what took place. Those were the Israelites that were what? That were Hellenized, being called Greeks, going by the mannerisms and customs of what? Of the Greeks. So what? The Jews of the circumcision, they were calling them what? Gentiles, heathen, Greeks. Some of the Israelites even adopted themselves to what? To that religion, so to speak, right? They have made that their religion. They have made that their mannerisms and their customs. And we're going to get that in the book of First Maccabees, so you can understand this. So when the so-called Christians, what they do is, let's say they open the Bible and they just jump to the book of Matthew, right? Now at that time we were under what? Tributaries of Rome. Okay, so now we're dealing with the Roman Empire. So you get to the New Testament, you jump into the book of Matthew, you in the book of Luke, you in the book of Acts, you in the book of Galatians, and you're seeing these different words thrown out there, right? Gentile, Greek, Grecian. So without knowing that history that was before that, which was taken out by the Bible Destruction Group, the Apocrypha, which was taken out, that whole history was what? Wiped away, hidden, because that's what Apocrypha means, hidden, sent away. So without that, you get jump to the New Testament, and you're not understanding that you're missing there's a gap of the time period that you're missing. So right now you just jumping in, what? We dealing with the Romans, you know? And then now you're wondering why, okay, why does it keep mentioning Gentile? Why does it keep mentioning Greeks and Grecians? Who are these people? Right? Keep the word Helen in mind. Now, matter of fact, let's just go into that, what that word means, Hellenization. Because it was a Hellenization what period? Hellenization. It says Hellenization or Hellenism is the adoption of Greek culture, religion, language, and identity by who? By non-Greeks. Now these were Israelites doing this. Okay? And what? We got the Bible, the proof, the history to back this argument up, if that's what you want to call it. Okay? So read that again, the book of John, chapter 12, verse 20. It says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. So what did they do? They came up to worship at the feast. Right? These were Israelites. Matter of fact, hold on. Let's get and I ain't got nothing in order. I'm just going through the spirit. When you go to the book of, there's a law, right? Check this out. When you go to the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 5, it says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Wait a minute. What is it? So is it saying other nations are coming up to worship actual other nations? No, it's not talking about that, right? It's talking about all these different Israelites. Because remember, going back to the prophecy, how we were scattered. All the different Israelites, right? Coming what? Coming to keep the feast. Because it's a law. You go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16. Verse 16, it says, 3 times a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy God, or thy power, in a place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. So that was a custom, that was a law that we kept. So now when you go to the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 5 again, and the word dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men, going to that word devout is men that reverence the Most High. Right? Matter of fact, we can get that in the online etymology real quick. The word devout. Devout, of persons yielding reverential devotion to the Most High, or to God, especially in prayer, pious, religious. Okay, sincere, solemn actions expressing devotion or piety, and the Israelites were doing this. Okay, so you go back to Acts chapter 2, verse 5. It says, "And there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven." Okay, so these were Israelites were scattered. You see, Israelites were scattered. But what? They were still coming to what? To keep the feast, to worship. It was in the law. All right. Now, in fact, since we in the book of Acts, let's go to this. The book of Acts, chapter 6, verse 1, it says, "In those days when the number of the disciples were multiplied, there arose a murmuring of the Grecians against the Hebrews, because their widows were neglected in the daily ministration." Now, when you go into what? Acts the 6th chapter, the first verse, you go into this word is what? Go into the word Hellenist, right? That's what you get for the word Grecian, or Hellenistus. Hellenistus. In fact, let's go here. Where we at? Acts 6 and 1. My phone is messing up. School, all good. So Grecian, Hellenistus, was Israelites who knew they were Israelites, but was raised up outside of Jerusalem, right? Which the Jews of the circumcision did not like them. They did not want to even deal with them, okay? Because they didn't consider them Israelites, so to speak. Even though they knew the history, they knew they were Israelites, they looked at them like, no, you're heathen. You're keeping the customs of the heathen, right? You're not keeping the ways that was taught of our fathers, all right? So it says, Israelites who knew they were Israelites, but was raised up outside of Jerusalem and had Greek customs and spake Greek fluently and what? Little Hebrew. Right? And this is a more tedious lesson, because there's a lot of points that we have to get. Right? Yeah, Grecians, Hellenistus. Now you go into Hellenist, it says one who what? One who imitates the manners of the worship of the Greeks and use the Greek tongue. Used in what? The New Testament. Used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands speaking Greek. So what else could they have been called? Greek speaking Jews. So that's when you go to the book of Acts, chapter 9, verse 29. It says, and I'll start at verse 28. And he was with them coming in and going out of Jerusalem, and he spake boldly in the name of the Lord Yahushua, and disputed against the Grecians, but they went about to slay him. And these were Israelites. Okay? These Grecians, these Hellenistas, these were Israelites. These was Greek-speaking Jews. That's all they were. They weren't heathen. And them being brought back through faith, right? The ones that was believing through the hearing of the word, being brought back in through faith, being granted in. The Israelites, the Jews of the circumcision was like, hell no. Right? How dare you bring them back, right? To keep the ways of the Lord, or come back to the temple. Like they have no coming in this way. Right? Because they was wanting them to come in and to keep the law, like how they were keeping the law. But when you go into the chief priests and the elders, right? What was Yahushua calling them? He was calling them hypocrites, because they was putting They was making laws within laws. They was putting burdens on Jake. They was being wicked, you know. So the Israelites coming in back through faith, they were what? They was basically putting hell on them, you know. So yeah, so that was Acts 6 verse 1. We can Acts 6 verse 1. That's good. Romans 2. Let's go to the book of John 7:35, right? The book of John, chapter 7, verse 35. And then we can get into that history. So the book of John, chapter 7, verse 35, it says, and I really like getting it in the NIV, but I'll read it here. It says, then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go, that we shall not find him? Will he go into the dispersed, right? It's a key word, dispersed, among the Gentiles, and teach the Gentiles? So let's read it again. It says, will he go into the dispersed? Who was the dispersed? Who was scattered? The diaspora. The Israelites were. So it says, will he go into the dispersed among the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? And you read it in the NIV, it says, among the Greeks and teach the Greeks. You see? Because what you think the Israelites were? Who you think they were among? Right? The other nations. You read that? We read that in the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 5. Right? Let's see if I got anyone on this page right here. No, that's cool. Don't. Okay, and that going word, that Gentile word, that word goes back to what? Helen. So as I read right here, Hellenization, it says, Hellenization or Hellenism is the adoption of Greek culture, religion, language, and identity by non-Greeks. Right? Hellenization or Hellenism refers to the spread of Greek culture that had begun after the conquest of Alexander the Great in the 4th century. And that was a big thing going on. The Hellenization era, that was huge. Okay? When Alexander the Great came on the scene and they started conquering. And guess what that lines up with? The Bible, okay? Biblical prophecy. You see? Go to the book of Maccabees, First Maccabees. Check this out. The book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, and it happened after Alexander, the son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, the king of the Persians, and the Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went up through the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. And let's just jump to verse 7. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. So this is talking about Alexander the Great. This is going into the history. This is the book of First Maccabees. This is going to the history of the Greeks. And it mentions what? Alexander the Great's reign. Okay, it mentions his reign. Now, when we jump to verse, there's really a lot we can get on here. Let's start at verse 41, okay? First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 41, it says, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to this religion and sacrificed unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. Now let's go back into what this said right here. It says, Hellenization or Hellenism is the adoption of Greek culture, religion, language, and identity by non-Greeks. And these were Israelites that were consenting in adopting what? This Greek way of life. Verse 44 says, for the king has sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem in the cities of Judah, that they shall follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they shall profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they might forget the law and change all the ordinances. And whosoever would not according to the commandment of the king, he said he should die. In the self same manner, he wrote to his whole kingdom, and appointed over all the people, commanding the cities of Judah to sacrifice city by city. Then many of the people were gathered unto them, to wit, everyone that forsook the law, and so they committed evils in the land, and drove the Israelites into secret places, even wheresoever they could fly for succor. So what? Jake was running. Jake was being persecuted at that time. Now you had some Jakes that consented to it, right? Accepted it and got down with the program. You get a lot of Jakes that feared the Heavenly Father and was like, the hell with that, right? I'm gonna die about my faith. You can read this in the story that I'm gonna die about this. I'm gonna die for the faith. Okay, I'm gonna continue to stick and fear the God of Israel. I'm not gonna serve your deities. I'm not gonna, you had women that says, I'm going to circumcise my child the 8th day according to the law as it is written, as we're supposed to do as a custom, right? I'm not going to, eat swine's flesh and sacrifice to these different deities as y'all want us to do. No, we're going to keep the ways of the God of Israel. Okay, now you have some that consented to it, and you have some that didn't, and what? They went on to flee. All right. It says now in verse 54. Now the 15th day of the month of Casleu, in the 145th year, they set up the abomination of desolation upon the altar, and builded idol altars throughout the cities of Judah and on every side, and burnt incense at the doors of their houses and in the streets. And when they had rent in pieces the books of the law which they had found, and they burnt them with fire. So this was taking place, right? They was coming and finding our scriptures, and what? Burning them with fire. This is what they did, right? This is what they did. So for people to say, to mention this a lot, like, okay, the Bible's the white man book. Well, these Edomites who took on the banner of the Greeks, because the original Greeks was Japhet, right? The Japhetic people. Those were the original Greeks. But what he did is what? He moved them out from their lands and took over those lands, because Japhet ruled Europe before Edom got there, right? And he took those lands over and placed that land and name upon himself, the Europeans. Same thing he did with the Americas. What he said, he was the American, right? But he knew Gad and Reuben, and the 10 tribes was already here. But he took that name for himself, took that land for himself. So Japhet, that had Europe, he ended up taking that over, and he ended up ruling over Europe. Right? What's we got? It says, so verse 56, it says, and when they had rent in pieces the books of the law, which they found, they burnt them with fire. Right? So the Edomites, the actual Edomites of the Bible, the so-called white man, he's the one that done this. So no, this is not his book, right? Because if this is his book, why would he do this? Why would he do this to something so precious, something that belongs to him? Well, he knew it didn't belong to him. You see, he knew that this book belonged to the Israelites. Because this is who had the book. When he came in, who do you think had the book, the scriptures? The Israelites. And wheresoever was found with any of the book of the testament, or if any consented to the law, the king's commandment was that they should be put to death. Now that leads me to this precept, and that's what you call what they would in terms today they would call draconian measures, draconian law, right? Strict rigor rules. The book of 2 Ezra chapter 6 verse 6 it says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts or profess himself at all to be a Jew. You see? So what you're seeing here is you're seeing the Hellenization upon the Israelites. What you're seeing is how the Israelites, right, became Gentiles. So when you go to the New Testament and you see neither a Jew nor Greek, it's the history behind it of why the Israelites are being called Greeks, why they're being called Grecians, because they are being Hellenized. And within this Hellenization, you had some that consented to it, as the scriptures say. Some that have adopted it, made this their custom, made this the custom of their own. Because they start professing themselves to be as Gentiles. Okay? Following the customs and the manners of the Gentiles. And that's what they became. Right? They have been They have became estranged from the Messiah through what? The book of Ezekiel. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 14, verse 5, it says, that I may take the house of Israel in their own heart, because they are all estranged from me through their idols. You see? So we became estranged from the Lord through what? Through our idols. The scripture says what? Your sins. I'll get it real quick. Look, I'm trying to get back and just set a quote and just read the scriptures, man. The book of Isaiah chapter 59 verse 2 it says, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you that he will not hear. So that was a sin. What did the Most High say in the book of Exodus chapter 20 verse 3? It says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And what the hell you think Jake was doing? Idol worship. Okay? That's what Jake was getting into. So we became estranged from our power, right? So back in First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 60 says, verse 59 it says, now the 25th day of the month they did sacrifice upon the idol altar, which was upon the altar of the Most High, that which time according to the commandment they put to death certain women that have caused their children to be circumcised. So women that were keeping the law, right, were put to death for what? Circumcising their children. Even though the decree was already out by the king of, look, if anyone follow that law, follow that book, be caught with that book, the testament, killed him. We couldn't even profess ourselves to be a Jew. So that's how heavy the Hellenization came down upon us. Verse 61, and they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing. Right? And I mentioned this earlier before I read it. Wherefore they chose rather to die. So you had Israelites that chose rather to die than to what? To eat swine's flesh. Right? To do these particular things the heathen wanted us to do, because ultimately they wanted us to live contrary to the ways of our power. Right? They wanted us to leave off from our custom, our heritage, the true ways of life, the wisdom inside of the nations which the Lord have given us. They want us to follow what? Their folly, their madness. Hey, Shalom Zakwan, Yahweh, Shema Shalom, Shema Kakadas Barakatah. So back at verse 61, it says, and they hanged the infants about their necks and rifled their houses and slew them that had circumcised them. Howbeit, many in Israel were fully resolved and confirmed in themselves not to eat any unclean thing, wherefore they chose rather to die, that they might not be defiled with meats, and that they might not profane the holy covenant. So then they died, and there was a great wrath upon Israel. So you got to understand that Hellenization period was serious. That was serious. So you had some that was like, you know what? Let's adopt it. Some of them said, the hell with that. We'd rather die. We're gonna trust in Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Okay, we're gonna follow our power than follow the heathen. But Jake don't got that mindset today. Jake wants to what? They want to bow down the knee to the image of Baal. But the Lord said in the book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 4, it says, but what saith the answer of the Most High to him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so, then, at this present time, also there is a remnant according to the election of grace. You see? So, this same time, which that was him back then, wants us to bow down to the image of Baal. Wants us to be joined with his system. Okay? And you're going to have a lot of us that's going to have the mindset to be like back then, choosing rather to die. And I get a precept to back it up. When you go to the book of Revelation, chapter 20, verse 4 says, and I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh and for the word of the Most High, Yahweh, in which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither received his mark upon their foreheads or on their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 8,000 years. Okay, so what? They became martyrs, right? They chose what? Rather to die, okay, than to follow the way of the heathen, to transgress the way of the Lord. Now, when you go to the book of Second Maccabees, the 7th chapter, it's a beautiful story. You go to those brethren that had the what? The same mindset to choosing rather to die than to what? To bow down to the image of Baal, bow down to the decree of the heathen. And he is coming with that same force and that same wrath. And that's what we're telling you Israelites. But let's continue. Back in the book of First Maccabees. And really, the point might have been made with the point. Yeah. So that's really the point of how this is just going into some of that history of how what Israelites became these Gentiles. Matter of fact, when you go to the book of, let's see, first, check this out. 1 Corinthians, let me see a second. 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter says, verse 1, it says, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you ignorant. Ye know that you were Gentiles, carried away into these dumb idols, even as you were led. See, so remember how when we read in Ezekiel, the 14th chapter, how we were estranged from the Most High through our idols? Well, we were carried away by those dumb idols. Okay? And this is how what? We became Gentiles. Right? Now, like I said, you got the Gentiles in the Old Testament that are the heathen. And you're dealing with Gentiles in the New Testament that's coming back in through faith, having grace and mercy bestowed upon them. These are Israelites. These are Israelites. So this is why you have to go into this history that I just went into in the first Maccabees. And there's more you can read, but I just made the point of it. Where when you go to back to Galatians chapter 3, verse 28, what a lot of Christians like to go to. Galatians chapter 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Greek. Now, like I said, for Galatians chapter 3:28, that word is, I believe it's Helen. Right? What is that? Acts 6. 3:28. Let's see. Now the internet want to mess up. Let's try this. Okay, so Galatians 3:28. They give it to me. Salaki, bear with me. Your Greek, born or free. Yeah, Helen. So Helen, and I read that. Okay, a Hellenized Greek, a Greek-speaking Jew. So when you go, it says there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither bond nor free, there is neither male nor female, for ye are all one in the Mashiach, Yahweh Shai. Why? Because they're all Israelites. That's why it says that they're all one, because they're all Israelites. Okay? Matter of fact, let's get, what is that? John 2:29. Let's just see it. John. No, that's not John. That is, what is that? I don't know what I don't even know what scripture I put there. Let's see about this. Nope, it's all good. Let's just move on. The book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 11, it says, "Wherefore remember ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands." So you had these Israelites in the Holy Land that was looking at the Israelite foreigners, that was looking at these Greek-speaking Jews as what? As foreigners, as heathen, right? As Gentiles. And they were being called what? This was the circumcision, which were the Jews in the land, or calling the Jews that was outside of the land, what? Uncircumcision. That at that time, ye being without Mashiach, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of the promise, having no hope without the Most High in the world. But now in a Mashiach Yahweh Shai, ye who were sometimes were afar off, are made nigh by the blood of a Mashiach. And they had a fit, right? They had a fit of the coming in of the faith of these Gentiles, of these Israelite foreigners. They had a fit. This is what a lot of these arguments was about in Acts the 15th chapter, right? Because they didn't want to accept that these Israelites that were coming back in through faith. They didn't want to accept that, right? Because why? They were stuck in the ways of their fathers, right? They were stuck in the old way, so to speak. Okay? I don't need that. So what we got? So, okay, so you got what? Gentile, what's that? Romans 11th chapter. Let's get that one. And pretty much you can really get the context of these different letters of who they was written to by just going to the beginning. 1 Peter 1:1. You know, Romans 1:1. 1 Corinthians, Romans 1 verse 7. 1 Corinthians 1:1, I believe. Let's go to the book of Romans, chapter 11, verse 13. It says, "For I speak," no, let's start at verse 11. It says, "I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? The Most High forbid, but rather through their fall," right? "Salvation is coming to the Gentiles for to provoke them to jealousy." And this is what took place. But these Gentiles were Israelites. Okay. Now if they fall of them be the riches of the world, and the diminishing of them the riches of the Gentiles, how much more their fullness? For I speak to you Gentiles, as much as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office. Okay. Now when you go to the beginning of this chapter, right? What does Paul say? He says, "I say then, hath the Most High cast away his people? God forbid, for I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. The Most High have not cast away his people, which he foreknew. And even when you jump to verse 10, or slacking at verse 10, chapter 10, Paul says, what? Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to the Most High for Israel is that they might be saved, because Paul knew these letters that he was writing to were who? Were the Israelites. Okay? Were the Israelites. That's Paul knew this already. They knew the history, they knew the different things that was going on. Paul, the letters he was writing to, he knew he was writing to the Israelites that were scattered abroad. Like what? Like James said. In particular, this in the book of Romans, Paul is writing to all the Israelites that were in Rome. Okay? It's not hard. It's not hard to understand. Okay? It says book of Romans 11, verse 12, it says, verse 13 says, for I speak to you Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle of the Gentiles, I magnify my office. And this is why Paul was going and traveling to all these particular places. Okay? To what? To speak to or preach to the Gentiles. And they were coming in back through faith. And it started with who? It started with Peter dealing with Cornelius, which was another Israelite. And let's get that real fast and we can just close out. So the point is made. The book of Acts, chapter 10. I'm not going to read the whole story. Me and a brother, Daniel and the Count, just did a live show on this about a few days ago. You can go back to our channel and catch that. Or go to GMS Pittsburgh channel and you can catch that live show we did on Acts of chapter. So it's the book of Acts, chapter 10, verse 28. Right? It says, and he said unto them, let's start at verse 25. It says, and as Peter was coming in, Cornelius met him and fell down at his feet and worshipped him. But Peter took him up, saying, stand up, I myself also am a man. And as he talked with him, he went in and found many that were come together. And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or to come unto one of another nation. But the Most High have showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Now, when you go above this, right, Peter goes into a trance. He gets a vision of a sheep, right, knitted the four corners. Okay, a sheep knitted at the four corners represents the Israelites scattered through the four corners of the earth. And then he sees the all manners of the four-footed beasts of the earth and creepy things and fowls. And this is basically the beastly state and the uncleanness of Israel. Okay? When you go further up, which we're at now, what this vision is actually talking about. Because it's not talking about food. You know? So verse 28 again, it says, and he said unto them, you know that how it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come to one of another nation. But the Most High have showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So you see, this is the bringing in of what? The Gentiles, starting with Cornelius. Now, when you go into this word, another nation, right? In the Greek, it's alophilos, right? It says foreign, but it's a compound word. So you got alos, which is another or other, and phile, a tribe. 12 tribes, okay? And it says one descending from one of the, let me just get it. One descending from one of the 12 tribes of patriarch Jacob. Let's get actually what it says. Acts chapter 10. Whole thing to keep company with another nation. So alophilos, compound word, right? Let's go into Another, right? Alos. Another. What I said already. Where's that? Boom. Phila says a tribe in the New Testament of all the persons descending from one of the 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob. So this is how you know Cornelius was an Israelite. Okay, this what it was talking about. All right. A lot of you people tried to, make Cornelius be what, a heathen, and he wasn't. Okay, just because what it says of the Italian band, well, you got Israelites in all types of high positions, especially in American Babylon the Great, sergeants and generals and captains, lieutenants. You see, Jake always had these different high ranks in different positions in all these in the captivities we've been in. Look at Joseph in Egypt, right? You had Daniel, right, and the Mordecai, right? So, okay. So I brought that out in book the Acts, the 10th chapter. Okay, because this was the bringing in of the Gentiles through starting with Cornelius. Now, mind you, that was Peter, right? It was through Peter. And what did Yahushua say to Peter? Check this out. The book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 18, it says, And I say also unto thee that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And the church it's going to represent the whole all Israel, the whole body. Okay? It wasn't just the southern kingdom, which that consisted of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, but the northern kingdom as well. Okay? All 12 tribes. Right? So start with Peter, right? As he was what? You know, as the Lord says, what? Upon this rock will I build my church. Starting with Peter, right? Dealing with Cornelius, and you see what? The dealing with the Gentiles, because that's what Paul, how he magnified his office, dealing with the Gentiles. But it was first started set up with who? With Peter. Okay? Dealing with Cornelius. And then so forth, so on. Right? So you got, like we went over, we did what? So when you go into this word Gentile, like in Romans 2, verse 9, and John chapter 7, verse 35, where else? I believe there's a few other places. You got Acts 6 and 1, where you got a Hellenist or Grecian. Go to the word Grecian, as Hellenistes was Israelites, or was Israelites who knew they were Israelites but was raised up outside of Jerusalem and had Greek customs and spake Greek fluently and a little Hebrew. You had a Hellenist, one who imitates the manners of the worship of the Greeks and used the Greek tongue used in the New Testament of Jews born in foreign lands speaking Greek speaking Jews. It goes to the book of Acts chapter 9 verse 29. Greek, we had Grecians already. You got ethnos. Okay, forgot that one. Ethnos, Gentile word. Ethnos, it says a multitude of individuals of the same nature, of genus, a tribe, nation, people, and group. Right? So let's just get that one and close out. I think I went to that one already. Yeah, I think I read that already. Ethnos, I forgot about that. That's the only one I didn't mention. Ethnos. Okay, so this is what you have in Romans 13. Okay, ethnos. For I speak unto you Gentiles, and as much as I am apostle to Gentiles, I magnify my office. So the Greek word they put in Romans 11 verse 13 is ethnos, but it says a multitude of individuals of the same nature, of genus, a tribe, nation, people, and group. Yeah, Israelites. All right, that's it. Israelites. That's who that's speaking of, man. Now The heathen, hey, Shalom, brother Abiyah. The heathen, look, man, he could have put, look, he knew what he was doing, man. He didn't have to even put Gentile, man, right? Now, certain cases when you read the NIV, different translation, he'll tell you, he'll put Greeks, okay? He'll put certain words there, but he didn't even have to put Gentile. But that's how he confused people. Let's look that up in the NIV. I never looked that one up in the NIV. So Romans 11, verse 13. Let's see what he got. Yeah, well, NIV got that as well. I am talking, I'll read it in NIV, Romans 11, verse 13. I am talking to you Gentiles, and so much as I am an apostle to the Gentiles, I take pride in my ministry. But we know we know those Gentiles Paul's speaking to in ethnos in its correct term, as it says, a multi of individuals of the same nature of genuous tribe, nation, people, group, Israelites. So let's look at this word. Genuous. Genuine. Genus. I said genuous Slovakia. Genus. 1550s as a term of logic, kind, or class of things. Biological sense dates from 1600. Says race, stock, kind, family, birth, descent, origin. Give birth, begat, with derivatives referring to procreation and familial. Oh man, I don't even want to try that again. In tribal groups. Okay, you know you're going to word the gene is what begat, right? Procreate. Okay, but genus. Look, race, stock, kind, family, birth, descent. Okay, so people, that's where you get that word race, right? From the word raza, right? Of what? Of the same stock. Is that Latin? Or is that Italian? Raza, no, they don't got it on here. Raza, race. You gotta look up words, man. He be having language all messed up. What's that right? Nope. Not race as you run. Race. Yeah, here we go. From the 1560s, race, people descended from a common ancestor, class of persons allied by a common ancestry, race, breed, lineage, family. So I was right what I was going to say, but I wanted to make sure I was correct. From the Italian word raza, root, though they admit this might have influenced tribe, nation. Okay? And that's Israel. That's Israel. That's Israel, man. Okay? We are that tribe, nation, people of group. Okay? That's what it's speaking about. That's us, man. So when you're dealing with the Greeks, the Grecians, what else did I have a title? Greek, Grecian, Gentile, man. You got to know the different definitions for each one and where it's placed. Okay, and even within that, you want to know the context of what is being said, because he was just placing these words of Gentile when he could have put Greek, right? And it would still go back to make sense when you go back to what? Helen. Because you would understand, like, okay, these were the Hellenized Israelites who adopted the Greek customs or Greek religion, and this is why they're being called that. You know, because these are all Israelites. And then you know what's so crazy? You have Christians that will say Greeks is a broad sense to mean the whole world, right? They will literally argue up and down and say, well, it says neither Jew nor Greek. In Greek, right? They'll say, well, okay, Jew, yeah, that means you Israelites, but it says Greek. In Greek, it's supposed to be for the Arabs, the Chinese, the Japanese, the African. I'm using, what the terms today. It's supposed to mean all these different people under Greeks. It's like, no. But why is it mentioning Greeks and Grecians, just flat out like that? Because when you go into the history, book of First Maccabees, and you read that history, and it shows you how these Israelites, how they became Gentiles, how they was Hellenized, right? How they was Hellenized, how E came down with great wrath within that Hellenization period, right? It wasn't just, hey, you know what? How about y'all just, adopt this religion and, everything be cool? Hell no. They forced that. Okay? So he says, look, man, if you profess yourself the Jew, I'll read it one more time. Yeah, so wait till he come down with that great wrath. Trying to get us to take that MOTB. Yeah, he gonna bring it. Book of Second Maccabees, chapter 6 verse 6. It says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. Okay, so you couldn't even profess yourself to be a Jew, man. Right? And Jake was catching hell behind that, keeping the ways of the Lord at this time. So guess what? Persecution will come upon us in like manner. Maybe even worse. Who knows? Maybe even worse. You see? So, that's the point. Just wanted to go into a few words, pull out a few scriptures, and get some understanding of dealing with those words and then the history behind why these words even came about. So when you see them scattered in the all over the New Testament, well, what does it mean? What's the context of why this is saying that, or even just why it even says Greek or Grecian? Because a lot of Israelites don't know that. They don't know. Coming in and different Christians, when they see that, they just automatically run with, oh yeah, the Greeks is, it means white people and this and that. No, that doesn't mean that. All right, so hey, Lord willing, hope was edified. May do a live stream tomorrow, depending on Lord willing. So until next time, I want to say shalom.